So when you're in any kind of competition and two of your competitors are fighting against each other, the best thing to do is just to kind of let them have it and sit back and watch and enjoy and maybe encourage them to beat each other up. That's kind of how I feel watching two of the companies I would think are the evil empires of Wall Street and real estate, one being Zillow and the other being Compass. Both are companies that are financed by Wall Street. They're worth billions of dollars. They've made their founders and management millions of dollars. The one person not getting a penny is the U.S. federal taxpayer. I pay more federal taxes, I think, than both companies have combined in their history. Because they lose money on paper, and that's one of their competitive advantages, while they disrupt the business, which really means unemploy small business people. So real estate traditionally has been small business people like me who run a business, service customers, pay expenses, and then pay a share of taxes at the end. And all these two companies have done, like Google and Facebook in the advertising world, is I think use unfair monopoly advantages to compete and win out in the long run. And so now they're going at each other. And it's interesting to watch this happen. And the area they're now competing on is the listings, which is, of course, in real estate, it's all about the listings. On one hand, you have Zillow saying, all listings should be made publicly available. Now, it's not because they care about real estate agents. It's not because they care about the sellers. There's a saying in technology that if you're not the customer, you're the product. In Zillow's case, buyers and sellers are not their customers. Their customers are the people who buy those buyers and sellers' data unwittingly. You give them your data. When you look at houses, they know your IP address, they know your address, your email address, your phone number, and they sell that, and then they also sell those people ads. And so they want all listings there because the more listing inventory they have to sell, the more ads they can sell. They're not doing it because it's good for buyers or good for sellers. They could care less. It's good for Zillow. On the flip side, you have Compass. Compass wants to have listings Compass only. And of course, their goal is if all the listings were Compasses, of course, they'd make money. They'd make more money because their commission splits are a little higher than, for example, EXP or some other companies. But this idea of them having this special advantage makes people open to working at Compass, and they can sell the listings to each other, which works for the company. Again, the last person they care about is the seller. Now, they say they care, and that's what we want to talk about today, is take a look at that a little deeper. So, for example, the chairman or the president of Compass, Robert Reffkin, and I've talked about him in the past, he might be a great guy. He might be one of the world's great sons. It might be a great story of success. Worth tens of millions of dollars, built a company worth billions, again, still hasn't paid much in federal taxes. He recently spoke at their national convention and talked about the Compass exclusives. I was very interested. I saw the whole speech. He's very persuasive. He's very smooth. But what he doesn't do is give any reason. Now, his audience are real estate agents who typically don't look beneath the surface. They are emotional, typically not intellectual. And I'm a real estate agent, so that's a knock on my industry. So I was interested to hear his reason. He gave a reason, and I link here to his YouTube channel, the YouTube that has his speech in it. He gives us an example as to how good the program is. One seller who listed with one of his agents. Now, Robert says he goes to open houses every week with his family. That's interesting. Of course, he didn't ever sell houses, so made sure to make up for lost time and learn the actual industry he's part of. But while there, he asked the seller about this Compass exclusive because it wasn't on the market. And they were so excited because it worked out great. They wanted to test the market. They were scared to test the market because they know that a listing that's on the market too long has a ding against it. Now, that was true in the 80s and 90s. These days, there's so little inventory, buyers are looking at any property. If they're on the market a while, they want to know why. And if you said, hey, we listed it at too high a price for a while, we reduced the price, they see that on websites. They see it on the internet. They see it on Zillow, on Redfin, on company websites. So the days of not knowing why, it's pretty obvious. If it was listed too high, you see they listed high. Now they're competitive. And if you want to buy the property, you better get a move on. But Robert describes this whole discussion with this one seller convinced that he got a great price, which is good. I mean, it's always good to have happy sellers. Don't get me wrong. But you would think that a multi-billion-dollar company would have, data to support their position. There's a famous saying at Google that data talks and everything else walks. And you would think that Compass, with tens of thousands of transactions, could sort all their data. I could do it in a spreadsheet. I'd be glad to do it for them for free. Sort all the properties that sold by, say, $1 per square foot of living area, $1 square foot of lot, $1 per bedroom, and you compare those that were exclusive and those that were not and see which one's higher, which one's lower. It wouldn't take but 5 minutes. It really wouldn't. I'd be glad to do it for free and share the data. And frankly, if they're right, I'll be glad to record a testimonial that they're right. The reason why this guy running a multi-billion-dollar company isn't looking at the data is because the data doesn't support his position. Obviously, they have the data. They know the numbers. He just wants to convince you that this one seller's experience was so good that you should overlook the obvious fact, which is what? What's the obvious fact? Well, he stated in this one listing that his listing agent contacted every agent in town. You know, I get emails from every agent in town. That's called spam. I don't open them. I get phone calls and texts from hundreds of agents every month. I don't open them. I call that text spam and phone call spam. So to say that he contacted every agent in town, I mean, really, who's he kidding? Who's that stupid to believe that? And at the end of this, he wants to say that, well, the reality is everybody saw the listing. Well, then if that's the case, what was the point? If everybody knows you had it on the market for 2 weeks or 3 weeks at a high price, and let's say it didn't sell in this case, you're in the same position. This is the dichotomy, one of two dichotomies that Compass has. One, either everybody does see it, in which case it's no different, or two, the other dichotomy is, what do you tell buyers? Like in this case, they say they told every agent in town. So imagine I'm one of those agents. So a buyer comes to me and says, hey, I see this property. It's a brand new listing. Let's go see it. Well, I maybe got some spam I didn't read saying it was on the market for 2 weeks. And I don't tell my buyer that. Did I mislead my buyer? Is Compass misleading the buyer? They say it's only been on the market 2 weeks, but they're only saying it's brand new, but it's already on the market 2 weeks. Are they misleading my buyer? Are they forcing me to mislead my buyer? The whole premise of this is to fool people. If I could fool you into thinking it's a brand new listing, I can make it for my mistake. And the third problem is, obviously, the more people that see a property, the higher price you're going to get. That's a fact of economy. That doesn't change. That's like one of the laws of nature. As Elon Musk often says, you can't beat the laws of nature. They're going to win out every time. You're going to find out the hard way. And so as long as Robert Refkin and Compass can fool enough agents to be successful, they'll make money. I doubt they'll make enough money to pay taxes. I doubt they'll make enough money to improve the market. And I think the other thing I would always say is, if you're in business and your only advantage is by fooling business from your competitor, that's called a zero-sum game. The goal here is to help more people bring the house to market that should, help more people buy houses that should, and then the whole market expands and we all win. That's a win-win. And so I just think this Compass side of this is just terrible. Now, not to be outdone, under lousy companies and lousy policies. Oh, let me just show a real quick graph. This is from Mike Delpret, who's a professor of real estate in Colorado. He says that the number of Compass exclusives is declining. Now, in a market where inventory is rising, these exclusives are declining. I would say the program's not working very well. This program is not going to be successful in the long run. I'd be more glad to bet $100, my favorite charity, against Robert Refkin's favorite charity. Okay, not to be outdone of lousy companies, Zillow. On the other side of that battle, I lost my spot with Zillow. Where's the Zillow article on this? The Zillow on this was, oh my gosh, I'm sorry about that. You know, I put this thing together and somewhere along the line I clicked and moved something. Anyhow, my point of all of the Zillow was, oh, I'm sorry, I know exactly where it is. This is the same Michael Depret. That's why I got that. Zillow's opening move in exclusive inventory battle. What they're doing is they're saying if ever you have this property advertised in any way other than MLS, they're going to ban you from Zillow for life. We have a debate in our country whether or not, if you come here legally or not, you can get welfare or get benefits or get jobs. And people say, well, let's make exceptions. Not everybody falls under the rules. And here's Zillow saying, if you advertise your property, you're banned from Zillow for life. The listing, not the person, not the agent. And you read this email they send out, it's kind of like getting a letter from your principal or from your broker. You're about to get fired, you're on notice, right? And so Zillow, of course, and they get a lot of publicity. This is this policy of Zillow. So with Zillow is the opposite end. Compass is saying, we want to hide listings as Compass exclusives so we can make more money. Zillow is saying we want all listings public so that everybody has a chance to see them. I happen to be on that side of that particular debate, not because Zillow's a good player. You know, they say even a blind squirrel finds an acorn once in a while. In this case, Zillow's on the wrong side, but they play very heavy-handed. This is the same company whose data is so bad that when you have a listing with an error, you can't reach anybody. I've had sellers call me to complain when I was a broker at another company that property was listed and it was wrong. There was a mistake. It was in the wrong MLS. It was the wrong city, the wrong price. It was in the wrong brokerage. It was our brokerage when it wasn't our listing. And there's nobody at Zillow you can call. There's nobody at Zillow who fixes that problem. Their service is terrible. The whole idea of these companies, Zillow and Facebook and Google, is not to have any human beings. Well, that's great if you're talking robot to robot, but in a business like selling houses where humans are the last mile, Zillow is never going to win out. Again, they'll win a large chunk, and they'll use their monopoly powers and make their chunk larger. But this kind of, I think, approach to professionals, I think in the long run is not going to work. So Zillow and Compass are fighting. I think it's great. I say stand back and let them fight. I do fall out on Zillow's side in the sense that I think the more people, not everybody should have all their listings public. There are people who want them private for whatever reasons. Good for them. I'll support them. I've done them before. But to say that that gets the seller a better price is just obviously misleading. And I think you're not serving your customer. I think you can serve your customer by being a fiduciary and tell them the wrong thing, and that, I think, violates your job. And I think doing an exclusive listing by telling them they're going to get a better price, I think it's just so dishonest. I don't know how that will ever last. So we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think it will last. Okay, let's continue. Let's take a quick update on the market and see where the real estate market is overall. And I would say there's three things you want to watch. Two things in any economy, which is going to be the demand and supply. Demand would be buyers and supply would be inventory. On the buyer side, rates inched down a little teeny bit. They're staying below that 7% number. They're at 6.89. You know what's amazing? If you look at the numbers since, this is February 13th, since January 20th when Donald Trump took office, for all the talk of volatility in the marketplace, look how kind of normalized the mortgage rates have been. And normally mortgage rates are very volatile. And so either the news is lying about how volatile things are, or the bond market is artificial, because there's just no way it should be that consistent given all the turmoil. Like this number here, this is Fry's number. We literally had Israel bombing Iran, Iran bombing Israel. We got China sailing out ships past some line they had never done before with Japan. You got Russia and Ukraine killing each other. You would think with all the volatility, rates might spike up or spike down or something. No, they're about the same. And so as a result, buyers, I think overall the economy is kind of like not buying all the drama of the news. And there are people who are still buying and selling like they might normally. Now, on the inventory side, which is home sellers, inventory continues to be at record lows. Now, let me pull that number up. I guess I was playing around with this too long and lost my spot. Sorry about that. Please bear with me. So inventory, 1.34 million houses. Again, you'll see it's rising like it normally does this time of year. We're still way below any year before the COVID pandemic. And so the market still has not adjusted. We are still millions of homes short of where we should be. And as long as that's the case, housing prices can't go down much nationally. Now, there are markets that will go down because in some markets they built too many. In some markets, prices went up too fast in those little geographies. But overall, nationally, almost everybody still predicts housing prices to go up 1%, 2% per year or something. And I think the inventory is going to keep that. Now, locally in Los Angeles, our market is softening from a harder seller's market to a soft seller's market. Using Altos research, I love their research. They take all these different factors and combine them. They come up with a 36. It's really kind of a high 36, 36.8. So what they're saying is that as a side seller's market still, which I agree with, as such, we still get multiple offers. We still get anything that's priced close to normal is going to get purchased. And no gimmicks needed at all right now. Now, there's exceptions. I just took a new listing in downtown LA. Can't get anybody to be interested in that property today. I can't even show it. Why? Because you can see the listing in the background. You see the fires, going off. My listing's right there on at the Toy Loft on downtown LA on San Mateo, and what's the street it's on? Industrial Street, right down there in downtown LA. So yeah, downtown LA housing right now. Nobody's going to buy or sell. You can't even get in there to buy or sell it. Can't even show it. Can't do open houses. Nobody's going to do it. Nobody's that stupid right now, I don't think. But overall, in LA, the market, we burned down 15,000 houses. We don't have enough to sell. The market still is not going down in price. And I think as long as the market stays about where we are now, it's not going to. Okay, let's get into the news. Bad news reigns in our industry, and I always talk about it. Here's an example. One of the companies I love to hate, Bank of America. Anybody here like Bank of America? If you do, put I love Bank of America in your comment section. Remember, Bank of America is really bankrupt of America. They went bankrupt back in 2008-9. They were one of the factors that caused the mortgage crisis, and then they sold the name to North Carolina National Bank. So really, the bank that exists today is not the Bank of America that I grew up with. And they put out these lousy surveys. The Bank of America Institute sounds very impressive. In reality, if you look at the methodology, they have to put it in fine print or else they get laughed out. The banking regulators require it. They only surveyed 1,000 homeowners and 1,000 renters. And here's another interesting fact when you read the methodology at the bottom there. Age 18 and up. Now, how many 18-year-olds buy houses? How many 19-year-olds buy houses? How many 20-year-olds buy houses? I haven't done anybody below 23 or 24, I don't think. I think legally you have to be 21 to make a contract, I think. Is it 18 or 21? I think it's 21. Anyhow, not many people buy before 21. So Bank of America puts out the survey. These are people monitoring your money. They're holding your money. Just keep that in mind. They say that, if you look at the statistics, I found this fascinating. Where was it? Here you go. 60% of homeowners and prospective buyers say they can't tell whether it's a good time to buy or not. Okay, well, only about, in a good year, 6-7 million homes are sold, maybe 5 million in a bad year. Out of 350 million Americans, maybe 200 million adults. So about 2.5% of people might be buying in any given year or selling. The fact that 60% don't think it's a good time shouldn't be a surprise. But here's an interesting stat. So you see that the number that think can't say it's a good time has gone up, a little more uncertainty in the survey. Yet more people say the market's better than it was a year ago. So 4% more people say the market's better than it was a year ago, but 3% say they can't tell it's a good time to buy. That tells me that there's some confused people, and Bank of America is not helping. And then just to add to it, Bank of America has, and this is a stat I'm going to talk about later as well, 75% of home buyers say it's not a good time to buy. Well, of course, it's not a good time to buy for them. People buy when somebody dies, they get married, have a kid, get a raise, make a bunch of money on something. The rest of us don't buy houses that year. The fact that only 2.5% will buy in a given year, in a 3% year is a great year. So the fact that 75% say it's not a good time to buy, is that really a surprise? But Bank of America puts it in a little survey, it's color-coded, and it's supposed to make them look important. And I think this is where we as consumers, our education system, at least in Southern California, is a disaster. We don't teach personal finance. And the companies that run our business, like Bank of America, they don't educate us. This is garbage. This is worthless information. This is misleading, emotional garbage by Bank of America. And so, I just think at some point, I wish these companies would take on the responsibility. Here's another example. Same number. 75% of consumers think it's a bad time to buy, according to Fannie Mae. Now, Fannie Mae, I've talked about in the past, they're a bankrupt company under conservatorship for over a decade, which means for over a decade, they're so incompetent, they can't manage their own affairs. They need a court to do it for them. That's how bankrupt Fannie Mae is, the company that's supposed to help you buy a house. And these idiots who can't even manage their own business, now, of course, they're paid tremendous salaries, and they use tremendous taxpayer resources. They put an article that 75% of people think it's a bad time to buy a house. Right. For those 75%, it's a bad time to buy. For about 2.5%, it's a great time to buy. They bought. And there's about 0.5% maybe who looked and didn't buy. So if 3% thinks it's a good time, that's all we need. This idea that these institutions are educating us by putting out this garbage. And again, this is another stupid survey by Fannie Mae. They had likewise 1,000 people surveyed. I do this podcast to educate my customers. Why can't Bank of America or Fannie Mae, huge corporations that live off of taxpayer money, can't they take any responsibility and teach their customers better than this? Just misleading garbage, both of them. Speaking of misleading garbage in the news, because most companies publish fake news because they want to create doubt and fear in their customers and make you come back to them to click information. One of those purveyors is Redfin. Here's Redfin. They have an article, and they put this press release out that gets carried all over the news. Just 20% of homes are selling above asking price. The lowest springtime level since, get this, 2020. Well, what happened in 2020 spring? Let me think. What happened? Did anything happen? Anything related to a global pandemic from Wuhan, the COVID thing? I don't know, call me kooky, but maybe that changed the market. We talked about that before. So you come down and look at the inventory numbers, and this is the other part that really galls me about these people. Where are we here? I'm sorry. Here you go. I'm sorry. The homes that sold above list price, 28%. You can barely tell the difference. This is this year, the green. The blue was the year before, the yellow was the year before that. So between 32 and 28%, all about the same in my book. 22 was an outlier year. 20 year was a tremendous year of COVID. But what do you not see? You don't see any of the, you don't see 2020, you don't see 2019, 18, 17, 16, 15, because they'd be all lower than this. Because it doesn't prove the point. The headline should just say, the market still hasn't adjusted to pre-COVID conditions. That's all. Like a lot of businesses haven't adjusted. Or things changed fundamentally because of COVID. No, they want to make it sound like the housing market and you should panic. And again, Redfin's another one of those big companies that you would think would be offering good information to educate your customers. On another one, big company I think putting out lousy educational information is, again, Zillow. Now Zillow, essentially their own article contradicts itself. Here's their press release, because it's a press release. Their information is so valuable that the press is interested when Zillow says. You know, really, I just think they're a little too caught up on themselves. If they had a little more time putting in quality work. Here's one, though. The luxury home market loses spring momentum. So what happens is less homes being sold this spring than prior springs. Okay, but notice here, interesting little factoid they put in their own data. Despite the slowdown, luxury home values are up 2.7% from a year ago, double that of the larger housing market, meaning the overall housing market, the prices went about 1.4%, and here it's up almost double that, 2.7%. So could it be there's not enough houses, and that's what's driving up the prices? And that's why there's less sales? See, in business, when you go to a store, they put out product, and the more product available, you can choose. You go to a car dealership, they don't just have the 1 or 2 cars they sell that day. They have 100 cars, and you pick one. And the reason they don't have 50 but 100 is the more product, the more you choose from, the more likely you are to buy. Same in real estate. Less inventory, less people are going to buy. And so all Zillow is documenting is there's less sales, but people are willing to pay more. Why? Because people want to buy houses. But for various reasons, our state and local primarily don't want to build more houses. That's the problem. That's the problem throughout all of the economy of our real estate. And Zillow doesn't want to say that because they want to be in good with state and local politicians, but that's the reality. Okay, one of the worst news sources is, and this surprises me to say this, I used to be a subscriber to the Wall Street Journal. Now I heard, it was interesting, I heard Elon Musk say this week that this is a quote, he wouldn't line his cage for parrot droppings with the Wall Street Journal. He says it's amazing that the Wall Street Journal, which is named after Wall Street, you would think would be pro-capitalist, is not. And I think they're right. I think he's exactly right. Here's an example in real estate, just to show you how bad their information is. So they have an article out, New Real Estate Math, 500,000 more sellers than buyers. And if you read this, you'll find that really this is just a rehash of an article put out previously by Redfin. I actually covered that story as being fake news by Redfin 3 weeks ago. And what happens? Well, Redfin puts it out as a press release. So here's a Google search. Where was it? Well, I don't have that. But anyhow, Redfin puts it out, and the next Business Wire ran it back on May 29th. It was on Reddit. People posted it. MSN put it recently, because they copied the Wall Street Journal. Yahoo Finance had it back on May 30th. Entrepreneur had it on May 30th. Oh, here's Redfin. Redfin put it out on the 29th, and so all these other companies read Redfin and put it out as a fact. So Redfin puts out fake news, and the Wall Street Journal puts it out, and all these other sources put it out, and you go, wow, it must be real. The Wall Street Journal said it. No, not true. Now, the Wall Street Journal puts it behind their paywall, which is funny, but you can get it for free by clicking on MSN or these other sources. That's what I do where I find them. But really, the Wall Street Journal is selling this information that's spoon-fed to them by Redfin to make Redfin look good, and is available for free from other sources. Really, just how far they might have fallen. Wall Street Journal is just really, really sad. Another example of bad fake news is Business Insider. Now, again, this is behind the paywall. And if you look closely, you'll see behind it, there's a record number. And it talks about the record of inventory, and the real estate market is frozen. Ooh, it's scary, it's frozen. Business Insider is all clickbait. And of course, you can't even see the article without agreeing to pay $1 monthly. and it renews at $12.95. So they're one of those companies that you get something for $1 a month, and it renews $12.95, but it renews, by the time you catch it, you try to cancel it, you can't cancel it, you say you canceled it, they don't believe you, one of those kind of companies. The good news is if you just Google search the title, it pops up for free on AOL and other sources. And so again, is it worth getting? Well, let's look at the article. There's a record 700 billion of homes for sale in the U.S. Well, that's good news. That's not quite true. Record amount of home for sale at 700 billion, not record number of homes. We saw how the number of homes is less than pre-pandemic levels, so that's not quite right. But this is the same article that's on Business Insider. The market's still frozen. And see, that's the word they use to panic you. Oh my God, it's frozen? Honey, we better click on that and find out what they're saying. And meanwhile, you're clicking on their articles, they're going to sell you a bunch of ads on their clickbait articles. So that's kind of Business Insider. Here's another one. So we hit, let's see, Redfin, Compass, Zillow, Wall Street Journal, Business Insider, and the last one of the triumvirate of lousy sources of business and real estate is MarketWatch. Now, MarketWatch, again, there's a paywall here at some point. You get a certain number for free. I still got this one for free. This move by Trump could be disastrous for the mortgage market and drive up costs for home buyers even more. Now, if you're thinking about buying a home, that would be scary. You'd click on it. They don't tell you what it is. And they kind of use this move by Trump, right? Not even President Trump or policy change. And I think that what they're talking about here is the idea that President Trump has floated of trying to get Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac independent. So the taxpayers, you and me, when Freddie Mac goes bankrupt, you and I don't have to dig in our pocket to bail them out by higher interest rates or more debt. Well, that's a reasonable question. I'm not sure I agree with it or not, or agree with the plan that's put forward, but I do think it's worthy of discussion. Why do taxpayers who don't own houses subsidize mortgage rates for people who do own houses? Doesn't make sense to me. Explain that one to me. Why does the entire economy of the United States guarantee so many trillions of dollars that if Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac went down, it could take the whole economy with it? I don't know. It doesn't make sense. So President Trump has reviewed this and has talked about the idea. I think it's good to talk about. Let's get smart people evaluating this. But MarketWatch, this is kind of how they play. Is they're obviously anti-Trump. Okay, that's clear. This move by Trump, and it can be disastrous without really explaining what the issue is. And it's a very subtle political move on their part. It's also a clickbait thing, which I think is just designed to get attention. And the most important thing in my mind is it doesn't educate the customer. At the end of the day, one reason why all these companies are struggling, all of the news companies are struggling, and all of the big corporate companies eventually will run out of suckers buying their investment vehicle, is because you can't go so long in life fooling your customer. And I've sought hard to educate customers. That's why I do this podcast. So what do you think? Have I educated you today? If not, tell me where I'm wrong. I'm open to the discussion. Let's have a discussion. Give me your comments. If you like it, please like it. If you want to subscribe. If I can help in any way at all, please reach out. I'm at LAProbate on social media. As always, make today your best day ever. Thank you so much.